Hi there, welcome to Sunnyside Journals. I have a flip through today of a junk journal I recently finished. A pretty little junk journal that I made from a 1940 wildflower book. It's actually titled Wildflowers of the Wayside and Woodland. The cover was quite sad and plain. The spine had been very badly faded because it had been on a bookshelf, probably for years and years and years. And so I just thought this sweet little book, because it was full of really, really pretty, tiny, delicate little illustrations, it deserves to show off for the second part of its life. So I just thought I'd take you on a tour through it. As you can see by the size of my hands, it's just a little delicate little book. It is about 4 5/8 by 6 3/8, and I believe it's about 1 inch spine. Yes, it's got 5 signatures in there that I have put into a hollowback spine. And as you can see here, there's a little bit of lace. I have also put in a permanent ribbon bookmark there into the spine and given it new life. Now, I'm going to open it up flat so you can take a look at what I did with the cover. I thought, because it was just pure green, it had a bit of water damage on it here, and again, as I mentioned, the badly faded spine. So what I did with this is I decoupaged a really beautiful tissue, facial tissue, that had flowers and butterflies on it. And I really love how that turned out. And if you look very carefully, you'll still be able to see the title there and the publisher. And I put some lace here. I put a little blank label here, so you'll be able to, perhaps if you want to give the book your own title, perhaps if you want to date it at when it's full and be able to put the beginning and ending date on it, that sweet little label is right there ready for you to use, so that when you put it up on your shelf, you'll know what to grab for. Now here on the cover, front and back cover, I've used a lot of vintage bridal lace, so that you're going to see little sequins and seed pearls that someone had sewn on by hand. I have tea-dyed some were naturally an ivory color, and some I tea-dyed to antique them a bit more. This is taken from the Edith Holden book, The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And you'll notice here, yes, that's sewing. I used my sewing machine. So everything did get glued down, but then it also got sewn, which explains a lot of these extra threads that are hanging out here and there. They've all been tied off, so if you're not a thread person, you can just take some little scissors and just snip them close to the bottom and they'll be gone. I like the drama that threads add, so I leave them there because they're very easy to take off. I put a couple of little charms right here. I sewed them onto the cover. It's a little key, and it's also a little charm that says "Made with Love." I got those in Happy Mail recently, and I just think they looked perfect right there. Over here, again, butterfly sewn on using my sewing machine, and a little bit more bridal lace up here. I really love how it's overflowing and cascading over the edges, and this once plain little book is now just lovely. It just reminds me of when you see a field full of wildflowers and it's just bursting forth. And that's what I wanted for such a sweet little book. Now this book, so in many ways is, typically a journal that I would create, but it's a little different as well than what I usually make, because there's, I think, when we get into it, we'll see, I think there's only one tea-dyed item. Usually I've got lots of tea-dyed papers, but I really wanted just some fresh, crisp-looking papers. So there's no tea-dyed pages in this book. And what that did was that allowed me to fit more pages in, because tea-dyed papers bulk up a book. because they just naturally, you can't get them flat again. They will bulk up a book. But because these aren't tea dyed, I was able to fit in 200 pages into this little book. There is tons of journaling space in here. And but as ever, all the papers, fabrics, laces, everything came from repurposed sources. So that can be thrift stores, but it could also be estate sales, rummage sales, Facebook Marketplace. If someone else has pre-loved it, that's what I want to use when I create a junk journal. So of all the things in this book, I believe, and I'll correct myself if I spot something else, the only thing brand new is this little bulldog clip right there. And they're very hard to find secondhand because I think everyone likes them. I've never ever seen them at one of my thrifted sources. So here in the opening spread, you'll see that the laces hang over the edges, and I just love that. It's just drama as soon as you open it, even cascading down the page edges. It's just very pretty. There's a blue doily here that I got in some Happy Mail, and I added a little butterfly. I had some leftover paper that I used for the end papers, so I fussy cut a butterfly and put it here. A little bit of fussy cut wildflowers here from a different book. And this is the original first page. On this side of the page, you'll see, yes, another little fussy cut butterfly. You'll see that it was printed in 1940. So it's an old girl. What does that make her? 82 years old? 60, yeah, 82 years old. So she's looking good for 82 now. She's had a facelift. So as I mentioned, 200 pages, varying sizes. I've used some offcuts to make use and put them back in because I used full size of these striped papers. So very little gets wasted. These little flowery punches from scrapbook paper came in Happy Mail. And so I made edges down several of the signature pages and sewed them with a zigzag stitch. This is an original page out of the text block. See what I mean? They're just beautiful little, tiny little delicate illustrations that were in this book. Very pretty little color illustrations. And there's some black and white ones, and I've included some of those as well. And I decal edged many of the page edges. I love this shell pink paper so much. I've put 2 folios in each signature of the shell pink. Some lined paper. Here's a page from the original text block with black and white illustrations. I like those just as much as the color one. A page out of a birding book. This is from 1979. And again, a little half page that's fun. The pages that needed fortifying at their hinge, I used a really pretty flowery washi tape, and that washi tape was new. Again, that's one of the things I never find at thrift stores. It gets used up. People love their washi. Another pretty page of those flowers from the original book. Put a little tab up here that's a butterfly, and I put the wings on both sides of the page so that it became a more natural looking tab. I got this idea from Nick the Booksmith, and I was so happy when I saw her do this that I actually put it into both journals that I made this week. I love how that looks, and a little bit of lace with it. So here's that clip, and I just tied a little bit of lace onto it, and for the time being it's just holding a reproduction of a postcard. Again, found it at thrift stores. Actually, I'm looking at this now. I think this might have come in Happy Mail. I'm not sure, and if it did and you gave it to me, thank you very much. The other side of the doily, another page with the sewn on flowers. Here's some stationery, some writing paper. I love this one because it's embossed, so it's really pretty. Here I've made just a little journaling spot from a Rolodex card, and I just did a little bit of collaging and a little bit of sewing on it, and it's being held in with a copper paper clip that I've put some sari silk on just to make it pretty. I have not over embellished this book. It's just a very delicate, simple book, suitable for writing, or suitable if you do want to add in pockets and tags of your own. And actually, on that note, I will be sending along a packet of some of the original pages from the book, some leftover end papers. There wasn't a lot left over, and even some leftover laces that I ended up not using. I thought I was going to, and then I liked the way it looked, so I stopped. But then I thought these two were already measured out, so maybe you'd like to use them. This was the leftover of the pink lace that's on the cover, so I'll be sending this along. More of that shell pink paper. I just put a little fussy cut down the side of that page. Here's a page out of one of the Flower Fairies books. That's the Heather Fairy. And over here is the Yarrow Fairy. And again, because I used offcuts to make sure nothing got wasted, there's two, it's almost like Dutch door of offcuts here. On this side is another copper colored paper clip. And I've just included a couple of vintage cards. This is from a children's Crazy 8 deck, and this is just from a vintage playing card deck. And I liked them both, and I thought the colors matched. So you can make those into journaling cards if you wish, or use them as placeholders, or glue them in. These are fun to glue on two sides and put down on the corner of a page and make a tuck spot. So you'll be able to do whatever you like with those. Another row of the little flowers sewn onto the edge. It's a page out of a little diary. Here is the ribbon bookmark. That can go anywhere in the book. Doesn't have to go where I've put it. It can go right there where you last worked. This is out of a little wildflower book. Here is a tea-dyed envelope. As I said, I do think this is the only tea-dyed thing that I put into the book. And I've just tucked a little bridge scorecard in there. You can put whatever you like in there. I just don't like leaving empty envelopes or empty pockets. And there's a little tiny little flower there on that circle, and that's how you can close it easily to open and close. Another little fussy cut wildflower there. Some more of that stationery that's so beautifully embossed. And again, I really showed self-control by not inking around the edge. I loved the crisp, fresh look without the ink and without the tea dye. Doesn't mean that you can't go in and do it. If you're an ink fan the way I am, you can go through here and ink to your heart's content. Here's another from the Flower Fairies books. This is the Laburnum Fairy, and over on this side is the Guelder Rose Fairies. And then again, sort of a little Dutch door thing that I used up some offcuts. Another little fussy cut that I put there. Here's a tuck spot that I made. I had a it was a flower seed envelope. It had flower seeds in it, and it this isn't old, and I wanted it to look a little bit grungier, so I aged it a bit. I actually decoupaged some tissue over it, did a little bit of inking around the edge. I decoupaged a little bumblebee on there, and then for the time being, I have tucked in a Two Nanas bookmark that I always put into my journals, and on the back, I've used the same paper that I used for the end papers in there. So I've just put that there for now. You can put it wherever you like. I like how that pocket turned out, especially because it said wildflower mix. See what I mean? Lots and lots of journaling space. It's a little book. It's small but mighty. Thistles. I love thistles. Very dramatic. This is from an old German recorder music book. You can see the fingering patterns there. So it's a simple book. I haven't overloaded it with folios from other books. I thought when it's this tiny, you need to make as much room as possible for the journaler to make it their own. And then this last page was the only full-size color plate that was in the original text block, so I put it back in as the last page. Now here on this end paper, I have put a doily down and sewn it in as a pocket. So you can keep things in there. I've tucked a couple of things in. This is actually a page out of a butterfly book I have, but it was about gardening. And so I imagine that the person may have used some wildflower seeds and wanted to start their own wildflower garden in their yard. And this little book on butterflies that I had was from 1929, so that's quite old. And I put a little wildflower basket there. And then this little envelope I collaged on the front and sewed around the edges. But it's actually from, I found it at a local thrift store, but it must have been from a flower shop because it's the kind of little card and envelope that when you're giving someone some flowers and you fill it out before you get the flower shop to deliver the flowers. I was lucky enough to get a whole bunch of them once at one of my local thrift stores. And I just love how that turned out with the blues and reds. So I tucked that in there too. And you can put that wherever you like. And again, the laces that are sort of overflowing over the edges, I just, for a little lady, she's quite dramatic. And I just thought she turned out so pretty. So this little book will be available in my Etsy shop shortly, today. I still need to set up the listing. So I will let you know on my Etsy account exactly what time I anticipate. Sometimes Etsy is slow. Sometimes I can hit list and it'll still take a few minutes. So I do my best, and the best thing you can do is, if you're interested in it, to keep refreshing your Etsy page, especially if you've favorited my shop. Etsy should send you a notification, I hope, that I have a new listing in my shop. So I would also recommend that. So if you're interested in this pretty little book, I hope you'll go over to my Etsy shop and take a look and see if maybe this is something you might like to treat yourself to. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.